Not every conversation with your pastor helps you. Some conversations heal, some quietly do damage that takes years to surface. And yet, you walked up after service. You said more than you meant to say. You handed him something that was never yours to hand him. And you called it fellowship without ever questioning what it cost. You have told your pastor things that belong to God alone. You have told him things that belong to someone else. You have told him a version of your life that was carefully edited, and then wondered why his counsel never seemed to fit. Today I want to open your eyes to something the church almost never talks about. In this message, I'm going to show you 5 things you should never tell your pastor. Not because he is untrustworthy, not because you should hide from your church, but because some words change everything once they are spoken to the man who watches over your soul. They change what he is able to do for you. They change what God is able to do in you. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17 says, "Obey those who rule over you and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls as those who must give account." Read that last part again. He gives account. Not for your opinions, not for your attendance, for your soul. Most Christians apply this verse to obedience, to sitting under authority and staying teachable. But very few apply it to the weight we place on that authority. If he must give an account for your soul, then what you hand him is not a small thing. And some of what we hand our pastors was never ours to hand anyone. The problem is not that you speak to your pastor. The problem is what you ask him to carry. 1. Never tell your pastor what another person confessed to you in confidence. Most of us do not call this gossip. We call it concern. We tell ourselves the shepherd needs to know that we are protecting someone, that this is what accountability looks like. And so, the sentence always begins the same way. I am only telling you because I care about them. I remember sitting with a woman in a church foyer who told me she had carried a friend's struggle to her pastor. She said the telling took 10 minutes. She said the friendship took 4 years to die. The friend never confronted her about it. She simply stopped calling. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 9 says, "He who covers a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates the best of friends." Separates. Not strains, not tests. The verse does not describe a rough season between 2 people. It describes a friendship ending. If someone trusted you with their sin, that trust is a room with 1 door. Your pastor is not an exception to it. Send them to him. Do not carry them there yourself. 2. Never tell your pastor about a member you have not spoken to yourself. We think we are going up the chain. We think this is order and reverence and doing things properly. But in most churches, the pastor is the first person told and the last person able to do anything. By the time it reaches him, the offense has been rehearsed a dozen times in the telling. I have watched a small congregation lose an entire family this way. A man had a complaint. He never once said it to the person it was about. He said it to his pastor and then to 2 others while he waited for the pastor to act. When it finally came into the open, the original matter was small and the damage around it was not. Matthew chapter 18 verse 15 says, "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone." Alone, between the 2 of you. That is the first step, and most of us skip it entirely because it is the only step in the whole process that costs us something. Going to the pastor first can feel like humility. Very often, it is avoidance wearing better clothes. 3. Never tell your pastor you will do something you have not counted the cost of. The service ends, the music is still playing, something rises in you, and you find yourself at the front saying, "Yes, I will lead that. Yes, I will give that. Yes, I will be here every single week." We call that willingness. Sometimes it is only atmosphere. I knew a man who volunteered to run a ministry on a Sunday night when the room was full and the singing was loud. He lasted 7 weeks. What I remember is not that he stopped. It is that he stopped coming to the church at all because he could not sit in a building where he had said a word he did not keep. Numbers chapter 30 verse 2 says, "When a man vows a vow to the Lord, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Your pastor will believe you. That is the danger in it. He will build a schedule on your sentence and tell others it is covered. Take the week. Say you will pray about it, and then actually pray about it. A slow yes serves a church better than a fast one that leaves. If this is speaking to you right now, take 1 second and subscribe to this channel and write in the comments, "I will not hide behind half a story," because the next one is the one that costs the most, and the 5th one is the one almost nobody in church has ever been told. 4. Never tell your pastor an edited version of your own story. Let me be very clear before I say what I'm about to say. I am not talking about privacy. You are not required to hand any man every detail of your life, and a pastor who demands that is a pastor to walk away from. I am talking about something much narrower and far more common. I am talking about going to him for help, and then removing from the story the exact part that is causing the problem. We do not think of this as lying. We think of it as framing. We leave out the part where we started it. We move the timeline slightly to the left. We describe what was done to us in full detail, and describe what we did in one soft sentence with no verbs in it. And then we ask him what we should do. I once sat with a man who had been counseled by his pastor for the better part of a year about his marriage. He told me quietly that the pastor had never known about the debt, not the argument about the debt itself. Every piece of advice that man received was correct for a marriage that did not exist. He followed it faithfully, and it made everything worse, and he blamed his pastor for a long time before he understood why. Acts chapter 5 verse 4 says, "While it remained, was it not your own? And after it was sold, was it not in your own control? Why have you conceived this thing in your heart? You have not lied to men, but to God." That is the part we miss. The half story was told to a man, but it was not only told to a man. Your pastor cannot counsel a situation he has not been given. He can only counsel the one you described to him. And if the one you described has the hardest part removed, then every hour he spends with you is spent on somebody who does not exist. You will walk away with good advice and no help at all, and you will not know which of the two failed you. 5. And this one lives closest to the heart. Never tell your pastor how good the message was when you have no intention of doing what it said. We would never call this dishonest. We call it encouragement. We shake his hand at the door and we say that word was for me today, and we mean it in the moment we say it. And by Tuesday, the thing the word was about is sitting exactly where it sat on Saturday. And we will say it again next week in the same doorway with the same warmth. I need to be careful and clear here, because this can be heard wrongly. Encouraging your pastor is a good thing, and he needs far more of it than he gets. This is not about staying quiet. This is about what we are doing inside ourselves when we speak. I clearly remember a pastor telling me, without any bitterness in it, that he had learned to stop trusting the door. He said the people who told him a sermon changed their life were almost never the people whose lives changed. He said the ones who actually changed usually said nothing at all, and he would find out months later, by accident, from someone else. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 5 says, "A man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet." Read whose feet it is, not the neighbor's, his own. The flatterer is the one who gets caught in it. When you praise the message instead of obeying the message, you are not really deceiving your pastor. He has heard that voice for years, and he knows the sound of it. You are deceiving yourself, because the praise feels like a response, and it lets you walk out of the building believing you have already done something about it. You have not. You have only said something about it, and saying something about it is the cheapest thing a person can do on a Sunday morning. It costs nothing, it changes nothing, and it feels almost exactly like obedience from the inside. And the distance between a man who says amen and a man who obeys is the whole Christian life. It gets crossed in private, where no pastor can see you, and nobody will ever tell you well done. This message is not about becoming suspicious of your pastor, or guarded in your church, or silent where you should have spoken up. Your pastor is not your enemy. In most cases, he is a tired man carrying more than you will ever know, and he needs your honesty far more than he needs your protection. If you read through this list and found yourself in 3 of them, that is not condemnation. That is the beginning of a better conversation than the ones you have been having. If this message found you today, write in the comments, "Lord, let me be known as I am." Share this with someone who serves in your church, or with a friend who has been carrying something they should have taken to God first. And if you want more messages like this one every week, subscribe to this channel so the next one finds you too. God bless you, my brother, my sister. Until next time.